Good morning. Hey, I am Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. So yesterday I had to cancel the show at the very, very last minute just because my internet went out, and it was out for about a half hour, but it went out about 10 minutes prior to the show, and then came back at about 10:20 Eastern time. So anyway, just my guest was there, and so we had to kind of scramble around. So Pam Gerard is going to join me in 2 weeks on June 2nd, Wednesday. So we just delayed that show 2 weeks. So we'll pick it up there, and we'll assume that everything's going to be fine and dandy. So all right, that explains why I was not here yesterday, even though there was a show announced. And then why am I a few minutes late today? I'm doing a monologue only show, and I've just been preparing my slides and getting things organized, and got a pretty nifty little topic that I'm going to talk about. The topic is the American morning show topics, and so I'll tell you what that's all about in just a second or two. So anyway, a few minutes late getting started this morning, but here I am and ready to go. And yes, Kelly is checking in already and saying it's a great, wonderful morning. Thank you, Kelly, for acknowledging what a great day it is, even though we're a minute or two late, actually about 3 minutes late getting started. But anyway, here we are. So I'm going to do a monologue only today. I do not have a guest, and I expect it to take probably about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. I always say 20 minutes and it takes 30, but so we'll just see how it goes in terms of, but basically just a monologue, no guest today. And then I don't have a guest scheduled at this moment for tomorrow. So I might just do a monologue again tomorrow. I don't know. But next Wednesday, I can tell you that I'm going to do my second live remote show. So I'm going to go to Stacy Redfield's Pilates studio, and we're going to do a show together next Wednesday, and that'll come at the regular time. Actually, it won't come at the regular time. It's going to start at about a half hour later. So I'm going to be on from 10:30 to 11:30 Eastern time. So just a half hour later, but we'll do about an hour show. And so that's the plan. And the reason being is that, she has things right up until 10 o'clock. And so to give us enough time to get there and set it up and get organized and then do the show, we'll just start the show about a half hour later than normal. That's next Wednesday. And I'll let you know what's happening the rest of the week, tomorrow. So, okay. So today is, first of all, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show, show number 176. Yesterday was supposed to be 176, but hey, we'll do that show in 2 weeks on June 2nd with Pam Gerard. And so today's show 176, Thursday, May 20th. And again, my no guest today, so it's going to be an abbreviated show. And my monologue is the American Morning Show topics. So now what does that mean? We say, hey, the American Morning Show topic. What are we talking about there? Well, I am going to tell you, and I've got a screen to share there. So let me fix my backdrop here. Just take a second. I put the blue backdrop up rather than that American Gumption. There we go. The American Morning Show topic. And let me put me in the slightly bigger spot. I think that's going to work okay because I've got this slideshow that I'm going to just go ahead and rotate right through the whole time. And so the way this came about, for the last, really since the show began, I said, well, what do I talk about? And I said, I'm going to have a variety show. The American Gumption Morning Show is going to be a variety show. And so then what does that mean? Well, I kind of had to figure that out in terms of, adding guests and what types of topics. And I had my basic ideas. I had gumption to start with. And then, the spirituality aspect came into it, and that's been lots of fun. But all along, I've been thinking to myself, what are the topics? What are the categories of topics that I talk about regularly? It's a variety show. We have a wide variety of topics that we cover here at the American Gumption Morning Show, but trying to define that's been a little bit elusive. And I've thought about it a lot. but I never really, and I would like write down certain things and ideas, and I maybe discuss them. But anyway, now that we're doing a bit of a reset, and 170 plus shows that have been done, you start to see patterns, and you start to see things that you like to talk about, and you kind of figure out what kind of guests you enjoy talking to, and what type of topics with those specific guests do you like talking about. So this is my first pass at really trying to define that and going public with that definition. And so I just really made this up in the last day or so. But again, it's been in the works for, I've had lots of notes and different files that I started. And so anyway, let's just go ahead and let it roll a little bit here. So this is basically what I'm saying, the American Gumption Show topics. And you can see I have a total of 8 different topics. I'm going to go ahead and put myself a little bit smaller so that you guys can see this a little bit easier. And I'll just tell you what they are. Starting at the 1 o'clock position, gumption, obviously, learning, wellness, sustainability, consciousness, adventure, freedom, and people. These are the 8 categories that I've come up with. And so I'm going to go through each one of these categories, and I'm going to just give you a couple of bullet points or ideas and explanation for each and every one so that you have a better idea of what they are. But basically, this is my first pass at here are the, everything that let's see if I, let me just forward this here. Yeah. So basically it's like, who do we speak with? What types of guests do we have? And what is it we're talking about when we have those guests? And then, again, what do we talk about? And what do we care about? And finally, what do we stand for? Because, the American Gumption Morning Show is essentially a variety and entertainment, but it's also, it's also about what we believe, what I believe, and what the guests that come on this show believe, and what we care about, and what we talk about, and what we stand for, because we're while we're trying to entertain, we're also trying to educate and inform and persuade people. All right. So number 1 is the idea of gumption, and there it is up in the right-hand corner. And let's just go ahead and rotate through, and I can tell you what I got about it. So classic. So basically, you can see here, there's 3 bullet points I'm going to talk about, and there's a little subcategory for each one, but this is the idea of gumption. So classic gumption. If you look up gumption in the dictionary, it basically has 3. It has 3 main ideas. One is initiative, someone who makes things happen, takes initiative, doesn't wait to be told how to do it. Someone who is courageous, someone who, fearless, someone with the determination to just get things done. And then common sense is the 3rd definition. And that's just basically ability to figure things out. So it's like, taking initiative, being courageous and going forward, and then having common sense. That's what I'm calling classic gumption, or that's the dictionary definition of gumption. Now, I added the 3 principles of gumption, and I kind of redefined gumption to mean personal responsibility, and specifically personal responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and interactions. And I've talked about all of this many times here on the show. But basically what I'm doing is in that one category, that first category of gumption, these are all the things that get talked about. So the classic, the definition, dictionary definition of it, and then my definition of gumption, and then finally the life lessons from the movie. And this was, I'm putting it under gumption because it really evolved out of gumption. And it's just I don't want the show to be about the life lessons from the movie, and so that's why I decided it wasn't it's certainly a big important piece of it, as we talk about the movie a lot, but it didn't seem like it was worthy of one of those main bullet points. And so anyway, the life lessons from the movie, which are opportunity, choice, and journey. Opportunity, the feather that comes down and lands at the foot of Forrest Gump. Choice, the chocolate box. Life is like a box of chocolate. You get to choose whatever life, you get to choose whatever chocolate you want. And then the journey, the many life chapters that Forrest Gump had, and that journey of life, and the fact that the life journey just keeps going and going. We never get there. So learning to live in that present moment. So these are the concepts that I started this show with: gumption principles, life lessons from the movie, and so now that was like my 8 years or 10 years of being a professional speaker, and my life after being the Forrest Gump impersonator. All of these things I talked about, still continue to talk about them. So that's bullet point number one. All right, number two is learning. So you see, we're just going to go right around this wheel here. So learning, and what do I mean by learning? Lifelong learning. Whoops, I'm going fast here. Lifelong learning, curiosity. Are you we here at the American Gumption Morning Show are lifelong learners. We are curious people. We want to know about other people. We want to know about things. We want to know about the way the world works. We want to know about the way the mind works. And so we are lifelong learners, and we are not people who are sitting back basically on cruise control. We are people who are continuing to live life to its fullest extent. All righty. And then listening. Listening is an important part of what I do, and what all of us here at the American Gumption Morning Show like to think about in terms of, it's because really the show is about letting others have a voice, letting them speak, letting them tell their perspectives. And again, I'm laying out kind of the broad perspective of what these folks who are invited to be my guests talk about. And I'm not forcing them to talk about anything. These are people that I'm finding that like to talk about what it is that they like to talk about. It just happens to fit into one of these main categories. And whoops, I'm going a little fast there. Let me back up. Communication. We are communicators here, and this is how we learn, is through the written word, through the spoken word, and communication is obviously a very important part of it. So we strive to be, we strive to learn how to be better communicators, whether we're speaking, whether we're writing, and whether we're just educating ourselves. All right, but it's all done through. And now technology has been something that I've been personally curious about, and something that I use, and I wasn't sure where to put technology. It didn't feel, again, like it deserved its own specific topic area, right? I've got 8 of them, but technology seemed like it was an important enough thing to have its own, but really I decided it wasn't, and I just stuck it under learning for now, with the belief that, since we're communicating, we're using technology so much to do that it seemed like a perfect spot to put it. Our economy, our world has shifted. We used to be people that were farmers, 100 years ago. We only started really moving to the cities in mass numbers, maybe longer than that, maybe 130, 140 years. So the late 1880s, it started moving from being 100% agrarian economy to moving more to the cities. And so anyway, we became an industrial and manufacturing, first there was commodities, and then there became like manufacturing and these products. And then it became kind of more of a service, and then an information economy. And so anyway, we don't lack for food. We don't lack for stuff. We all have cars. We all have TVs. We all have everything we need. We got more than enough stuff to keep us busy so really what we're doing is we're using technology. We're, figuring out how to use that now in terms of how to communicate better and how to understand each other. So anyway, throwing technology in underneath the learning. All righty. So now let's move to the next area, wellness. Now, did I miss a slide with wellness? I guess I did. Okay. So wellness, let's see. I'm confusing myself here. Let's back up. Learning. All right. We're going to go back to start right here. All right. I didn't even have a chance to finish reviewing these. I made this. So wellness. Health and wellness, basically, and 4 areas that I'm listing. Your physical health and wellness. We like to talk about that here. What can you do to keep your body, when we're living in this 3D world, our physical bodies we need to take good care of them. I'm interested in those conversations. I'm interested in people who come to the show and talk about that. But you also emotional. And so health and wellness fits into 4 areas: the physical, and then the emotional, and that's really the heart. That's your feelings. This is an important area. This gets into the area of, emotional health, the psychiatric health. And it's really like kind of a funny thing, is this more of an intellectual thing, or is this more of an emotional thing? And I used to think them kind of one and the same, but I've now separated them and realized that emotional and intellectual, which is the third one, that's really more of your thinking brain, and the emotional is more of your feeling heart. And I'm saying they are both very independent sensing devices and interpretive devices that we both have in order to carry this physical body through the world. And then the fourth one would be the spiritual aspect of it, part of your health and wellness and well-being. And it's the spirituality gone wild, me being part of that organization since I started this show. Maybe somebody would have thought, based on the number of shows I've done where I've talked about, the spiritual aspects of it, that was its own bullet point, but I'm putting it underneath of wellness for now. Again, I might change these a little bit because this was my first pass at it, but I'm thinking, wellness is, encompasses all 4 of those: the physical, emotional, intellectual, and the spiritual. And then finally, I'm putting down recovery, because I am basically 4.5 years living a alcohol-free lifestyle. I decided that I needed more personal freedom, or I wanted more personal freedom in my life. And that when I was drinking on a regular basis, a daily basis, several beers each day, it was just, I didn't have the freedom that I wanted, because, it was like I was kind of, in a habit where it had to happen every day. And so getting rid of that habit, allowing myself more freedom. And then there's lots of people that are part of the spirituality gone wild who specifically talk about recovery. And so I wanted to include that here in the wellness area. All righty. Now, the next one is sustainability. And let's see what I have underneath of that. I know what I have. It's kind of the environment. It is the environment. And I guess I could have called this environmental, something like that. But I decided that I like the word sustainability because it's more of a subcategory of environmentalism. And I don't consider myself an environmentalist in terms of the way, environmentalists have, spoken the last 20, 30 years. I don't have any problem with. I have a great respect for taking care of the environment, but some of these organizations and environmentals are more like a spiritual movement or a religion, and so that's certainly not what I want to do. I just want to talk about sustainability, and that's how do we take planet Earth, Mother Earth, and all of the inhabitants of it, the people, the wildlife, the oceans, rivers, streams, parklands. How do we take care of and protect all of that and have that, so that we can all continue to enjoy it, and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren and generations from now can all enjoy it. And so that's why I like to call it sustainability, because I'm concerned about all of those things, and I'm not concerned about any kind of a particular movement to do it. I just want to make sure that all of this happens. And, and sustainability, when you talk about trash and recycling and repurposing, because again, we have so much stuff here in our country, and especially this country. I mean, we got more stuff and junk than you can possibly use in a lifetime. So how do you recycle it? How do you get rid of it? How do you repurpose things so that, we just don't keep getting more and more and more and more and more, because that's no longer the answer to what we're doing. And then finally, I am more of a grassroots individual people and smaller groups figuring out and solving how this all works than I am with the big, large scale government types of proposals. And certainly in some cases, I think that the government proposals are appropriate, but I don't want to sit back and wait for that to be the answer, because that's been a lot of the problem. Maybe not the government causing the problem, industry causing the problem, but together with big government and big industry, I'm like, let's actually get this solved, as opposed to just keep talking about it and making bureaucracies that want to talk about it. So that's my bias that way, and my beliefs. And so sustainability, how do we keep this planet alive and well all eternity? All right, now number 5 is consciousness. This is kind of a big one. This is going to talk about the spirituality. And when I say consciousness, we use the term awakened. People who have kind of like went, oh my gosh, like there's more to life than buying a new car and watching more TV. And this is really part of the spirituality gone wild movement, not spirituality gone wild movement per se, but spirituality in general. So consciousness, are you living life on an autopilot, or are you kind of making active choices in terms of what you want to go forward with? So the next topic is quantum. Oh man, this is the science part. I love this part, the whole energy and quantum physics and how science and religion are kind of merging together. And that's what I'm very interested in terms of spirituality, and the fact that we are, science is showing that, matter doesn't come to become real. So physical doesn't come real until you focus on it. And so how you focus your energy, and how the quantum field and the quantum energy and quantum mechanics and how that all works in terms of creating our futures. This is an area that I'm hugely interested in, and will continue to explore. And in simplest terms, it's living in the present. So anyone who's conscious is living in that present moment, and basically realizes that the past is the past, and the future is is something we can plan for, but not something we should get caught up in, and certainly not something we should be waiting on to achieve happiness and heaven here on earth. All right. And then the last thing is, it's the Gumption principles, so personal responsibility for the way you think, the way you act, the way you interact with others. That's really what, I didn't say, I never called it consciousness, but that's what it's all about. So I mentioned the Gumption principles because that was the very first thing that I mentioned. This is number 5 that I'm mentioning. And these things are all connected. A lot of these things are all connected to each other. But again, you sort of break things out in the categories, and you try to define things. All right, let's move on to number 6, and that is adventure. Yeah. So the whole American Gumption project started as a big adventure where I said, hey, I want to go live and work from the road for the next 4 to 6 years. And so travel is certainly, a big part of it, adventure travel and traveling around. And so again, my goal is to live and work from the road for the next 4 to 7 years, where I'm traveling out, meeting people, interviewing them from the road, having my own broadcast studio inside of my RV, in which people will regularly come, and I'll go out and do remotes at their place, and so this is the whole adventure part, traveling aspect in terms of from a personal level. Now I also have interviewed several people who are either photographers or travel people themselves, and then we can bring their stories in, and I've used Anna Holman a few weeks ago was on, and she's doing the backcountry in Montana adventure solo traveling, and she so she's got that pictures of it, and so any kind of a person who is into that type of adventure and lifestyle, I'd love to talk to those folks. And then again, RV living. I am not living in the RV today, and but I will be. And so I expect that this will become a bigger piece of it as I'm out there living and working from the road for the next few years. And exactly there's a lot of people who do RV living now. So whatever I do, I'm not sure what I'll do, but it'll be a little different than what they're doing. And then finally, the last thing I have is experiences. And that is that, experiences enhance learning. One of my beliefs is, experiences enhance learning and allow for greater learning. And so as you're out there, traveling and seeking adventure, your curiosity for the way the world works, for different cultures, different peoples, different parts of the country. Those experiences are really what we want to share with you here and talk about. And again, ties very much in with number 2, learnings. All righty. So that's it for adventure. So let's go ahead and move. We're up to 7 of the 8. We're just going around the dial here clockwise, and so we've covered the first 6, and we got the last 2, freedom and people, to go. So freedom. So this one's like the American Gumption, and of course it was because I was going to travel around the United States, but I also have a personal, the whole idea of personal responsibility and what America stood for in terms of rugged individualism. This is very attractive to me. I like this. I like freedom. I like the idea. I don't want people telling me what to do, and I never did. As a kid, I wasn't very cooperative, and as an adult, I sometimes can be uncooperative, especially if someone is trying to restrict me and take away what I consider freedoms. And I think all human nature is that we want to be free. So that's we'll just leave that there. And then now the American Constitution and the founding fathers and principles. I cannot believe that I'm almost hesitant to say that this is what I stand for. We are living in a kind of a pretty wacky world right at the moment, where if you believe in the American Constitution and the founding fathers and the principles of which they founded this country and the goodness of this country, you're considered someone who is needs to be quieted and shouted down. And so anyway, I stand for where this country, the principles that this country was founded on. I can't believe that I cannot believe that this is even controversial. So anyway, I've not talked a lot about this, but I think as I travel around and as I meet people, I think I'm going to find an overwhelming number of people who do believe in these types of things. And I believe that there's a movement in our country now where there's a minority that is doing a lot of shouting and creating for what is the majority the belief that somehow they're in the minority. So we'll see. We're going to play this out. I haven't again spoken a whole lot about this, but this is part of what American Gumption is all about, and so we're not going to shy away from that. All righty. So anti-corruption, and this is along the same line. Our governments, and there's governments in the world that are corrupt as can be. But boy, it seems more and more like our own government has its own problems that need to be cleaned up, and big businesses, the same thing. So we're living in a very weird time right now, and I'm not happy, or I'm not encouraged by some of the things that are happening. I am encouraged by the fact that I believe that the American Constitution and the founding fathers and principles are still popular, and that anti-corruption and people thinking that, government waste and big businesses with monopolies, not such a good idea. Not such a, takes away freedoms. We talked about that freedom, or, in the very first part, personal responsibility and that rugged individualism. There's a conflict going on between these things. And so anyway, I stand for cleaning up that corruption, whether it be in the United States or out throughout the world. Easier to see sometimes in other places, but not so hard to see in our own country right now. So time to clean up our own house. All righty. And then finally, human rights. There's a lot of people who don't enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy. And so, which one was it? Sustainability. I almost put human rights under sustainability. But, it's because it's like a planetary thing in terms of all people should be able to live their lives freely and the way they want to. and not a lot of people don't enjoy that right now. So, alrighty. So that's freedom. All right. And finally, the last thing is last but not least is people. And it's basically individuals. I have individuals come on here. I don't speak to large groups. I don't do focus groups. I may do something like that, but I kind of like just talking to people one-on-one. And so that's been the program of the show so far. Maybe like a small group or a couple of people, but I don't see myself doing like large panels of groups, that sort of thing. So it's individuals that we talk to here, and we hear what their opinions are, and we don't shout them down or judge them if they have opinions that are different than ours. But we do mostly, and we mostly invite people who kind of think of, who agree with these 8 different topics that I'm putting up here today, right? These main categories of things that we're going to talk about. And that's again, the theme. So it's people who believe in that. All righty. I like artist mindsets, entrepreneurial. When I say artist mindset, I'm not talking about the person who paints or sculpts, although that could certainly be something they could do. But they could be they could be a musician, they could be a writer, they could authors, they could be podcasters, speakers, they could be any kind of an artist mindset is someone who's creative. And so I like creative people, and I like people who think out of the box, and I like people who don't like the box so much. And so and entrepreneurs fit into that. And I think that, you'll see most of the people I end up talking to, fit into this kind of category, just because I believe I fit into that category and I relate to them better. And, occasionally we'll interview people from larger corporations, but that's not so much what we talk about on a regular basis. All righty. Getting down to the very end here, heart-centered people. We talked about that back in wellness. The 4 areas: the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual. Well, heart-centered is that emotional part. So people that I like to talk to are heart-centered and care about other people, and care, aren't interested so much in. They're interested in all of the welfare of our planet and other people. And, that's what I call a heart-centered person. Alrighty. And finally, it's ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives. Ordinary individuals living, let's go back one here. Ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives. And it's funny, sometimes I'll reach out to somebody and I say I want to interview them, and I don't really know them, but I've read about them, I've learned who they are, and they'll say, well, I'm an ordinary individual, but I'm not living an extraordinary life. And I it's unfortunate that they think that, because we all are ordinary and we all can be extraordinary, and it isn't. There's something that, somewhere along the line we were told that it's, we don't want to be too big for our britches. We don't want to, we want to live an ordinary life. We don't want to live that extraordinary. And so I do definitely want to connect with the people who are the awakened, the consciousness ones who say, life is meant to be lived extraordinary. And some of these folks, I think they deep down inside, they know that they're living an extraordinary life, but they're maybe afraid to admit it. And so in some cases, my job will be to encourage them to believe in it. And in other cases, they'll have to figure that out for themselves if they're not ready. But I want to talk to the people who are embracing their extraordinariness, because life is a miracle. And when we are, living in that, connected to that higher power, then, heaven on earth is all possible. And that's what we're all striving for. So creating a better human experience maybe is another way to summarize all of this. All righty. Well, that is it. Today was just my first pass at, here it is, the American Gumption topics. And once again, they are 8 of them: gumption, learning, well-being, wellness, sustainability, consciousness, adventure, freedom, and people. And there's a lot of crossover, between them. Gumption, I talked about consciousness and gumption. The three principles of gumption are really, could be defined as consciousness and freedom, personal freedom. They're all connected with each other. So all these things I see as kind of individual spokes, and yet they're all part of that bigger whole. And that for this particular case, it's the American Gumption Morning Show, and so it's the American Gumption topics that I'm talking about here with it. So that's it for the monologue. Where am I at? 10:39. Yeah, I went 30 minutes talking about this. Of course, never a shortage of words. All righty. Well, have a great day, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow. I may just do a monologue. I may have a guest. I'm not sure. I'm just I'm figuring this out each day as I go along. So anyway, that's it. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll do this once again. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody. There we go. There it is.